Hello and welcome. I'm your host, Don Rico Castro, and you're tuning in to the What's in Your Case podcast. Our guest today is a local songwriter, performer, and she's been singing for, as she says, a lot of years. She's been posting covers to deal with anxiety because at the time she couldn't afford therapy. An artist I recently had the pleasure of sharing a stage with. My guest today, fellow Hufflepuff, Rachel Mullen.
Hi. I love that. I literally did not give any of that to you. You just kind of created that yourself. So I'm like trying to withhold my laughter. So I love that. That was all very true. So hi.
So I've been doing a bit of research on you, and it turns out this is not your first podcast. It was your friend's podcast. Did you want to give him a little shout out?
Oh yeah, that was Christian Carley. He's in a band right now. It is called Giant Red Rabbit. So he's a fellow musician. He's a drummer. So it was a while ago, but yeah, it was a lot of fun.
On that podcast, you mentioned you got tickets to see the When We Were Young festival. What was that experience like?
It was my first music festival. So definitely I had a lot of learning experiences. It was hot, but it was a lot of fun. I got to see a lot of old bands that we kind of grew up listening to. So I actually was seriously about to wear the shirt today too. So it's kind of crazy you mentioned that.
My brother and I, we each do music on our own. My brother AJ has his band with his girlfriend. My other brother Andrew plays guitar for me. And I know that you come from a musical family. You mentioned that your sister sings along with you sometimes. I know that during the show you invited her to sing with you, but she declined. Why do you think music is so important for your family?
I think it's connected us in a lot of ways. It definitely is. I mean, always having shows and things like that to support each other and I think is really fun. And I think that's one dynamic that our family is able to have. She grew up doing like singing and dancing group in the area and I did musical theater. And so just kind of like going back and forth, my parents just love seeing us happy doing what we love and stuff. So I think just like having that opportunity to go and support when they're performing is kind of a fun family dynamic. So yeah.
So you do musical theater?
Yes.
How did you get involved with musical theater?
I started out in 5th grade. I liked singing in church with a friend of mine, and so we ended up going out for the 5th grade musical Annie, and my friend got Annie and I got Miss Hannigan, and I remember being a little bummed about that, but it wasn't until afterwards when everyone was complimenting me and things like that, I decided I really liked doing it no matter what part I got. So I just continued doing that on, and I do it even now today with a company out in Lodi. So yeah, just whenever I can, I love musical theater.
And which productions have you been a part of?
I've been in a lot. I've been in Hairspray, I've been in Mamma Mia, West Side Story recently, but yeah, I've done a lot.
And what was your favorite role that you played?
Probably the only time I got the lead, I was Tracy in Hairspray a while ago. Yeah, it was the best experience. So that would be my favorite.
So Rachel, how many musical instruments do you play?
I play one.
One.
I play the piano. I've tried playing guitar. I can play G, C, and D like really well. Even E minor, that's an easy one, but other than that, it's just piano for me.
And a question I like to ask my guest, and so far we've pretty much got a pretty even 50-50. Do you name your instrument?
No.
No.
I probably should. Now, I feel bad. That's funny though, it's 50-50.
It's pretty much a 50-50.
Is
Some
yours?
people haven't even thought about naming their instrument until that question.
I do have a lot of respect for my keyboard, but I haven't named it.
So before we get to your discography, I just wanted to point out that you're the first person that I've interviewed that has more covers out than originals. But you like to do a little twist to your covers. You arrange it in a way that you put your own stamp on them to make them yours. Aside from them sounding beautiful, why did you choose to start recording covers over originals?
I guess I started music in a way that was personable, like it was personal to me. So at that point, I didn't even consider myself a songwriter. And so all I knew how to play were the notes written in front of me when I grew up playing piano and then singing like musical theater songs that are already written. And so at that point, I just kind of put the two together. But the only way that I could be creative about it was to change the chords up a bit, or like I said at the night at Fig Tree, my fingers only know sad chords. So I just pretty much can take a lot of different songs that are typically upbeat or happy, poppy, and then put my own spin on it because those are the only chords that I know. I would say it was easier for me to do that because I wasn't yet comfortable with expressing the actual thoughts in my head. I would just make all the other songs the way that I felt. So, yeah.
And then are there extra steps when releasing covers? Do you have to get permission from the original people?
Yeah, I had a couple of mashups, so I took 2 songs and released them as one. I had a couple of those up, but you have to get the licenses separately. It's a little bit more work. Those are no longer up on Spotify, but if you want to just release a cover of a song, I use DistroKid. And I know a lot of people use DistroKid as their distributor for Spotify and Apple Music. There's basically a button that you press, and I believe it's $12 a year per song, per cover song, and they basically will take care of the royalties and all of that for you. So you don't have to worry about not only the license purchasing and stuff, but also as you get streams, as you make money off of those songs, they only give you what you're given and then give the rest out to the original writers and stuff. So DistroKid makes it really easy to release cover songs.
Speaking of your mashup, it was the Somewhere Only We Know and Scientists. That one had 50,000 streams before you ended up taking it down?
Yeah.
Was it only because of the licensing? Was that the main reason that you pulled it?
Yeah, I was at a time in my life where I was wanting to kind of make a change, and that did play a big part in it, because at that point I was needing to also use a different distributor. I was using TuneCore for that mashup and that album just because DistroKid wouldn't allow mashups. So I really just kind of wanted to close out that account and then just keep everything on one DistroKid account. So yeah, it just kind of made things easier, and I left it up until 50,000, and I was really proud of that, and I know a lot of people loved that song. I'll just keep making more music, so yeah.
Do you think we'll see the mashups in a different way? Maybe like during a live show or something?
Maybe, yeah. I invited my cousin to the gig that night, and she loved that song and was upset that I took it down, and I told her I would work on doing it for that night, but it ended up not happening, obviously. So yeah, I think it would be cool to try and redo it in my own way at a live performance. So maybe.
All right, let's take a look at your discography. Now, 2016, you were part of the musical Math for Kids multiplication fags.
Yes, I was.
You're the voice of fives.
Yes, I am.
How did you get involved with that project?
That was actually when I was out doing Hairspray in Lodi. A friend of the director asked for some performers to be a part of this project, and it really is a wonderful project that I got to be a part of. But it definitely is something that is very random on my on my appears on section on Spotify. but yeah, it was a lot of fun. So we went to the press recording studio in Stockton, I believe, and that was my first recording session experience. It was really exciting. So yeah, I'm really but yeah, it's very random.
And then the next one is May 12th. You released the single Something Just Like This, which is a cover. September 3rd, 2019, you released a single for Golden, which is your original.
Yes.
May 8th, 2020, you released the single Glitter and Crimson. July 28th, 2020, you released the single 500 Miles, which is the duet with your sister.
Yes.
October 3rd, 2020, you released the single Body, which is a duet with another artist called Shell.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
November 13th, 2020, you released Till You by Woodcherry. You were featured on this song.
Yeah.
How did you get the opportunity to work with a band from Japan?
It was so cool. They just randomly messaged me on Instagram, and there was definitely a communication barrier, hurdle, because I wasn't sure what they were asking even. They asked if I would sing one of their songs, and I was like, oh, like a cover, because that's all I was doing at the time. And they said no, so they sent me the instrumental, what they had produced, and asked that I would write the lyrics to it and asked if I would sing to it. So that was a really fun experience. And that's the type of music too that I love listening to. I love like dance, EDM, they're my vibe. And so I'm really happy that I found them, because I still listen to them. But yeah, they just messaged me on Instagram randomly, and then I just sent them the vocals and they put it all together.
Do you think there'll be any future collaborations with you and them?
I don't know. I should reach out to them. They did send another instrumental a while back, but it didn't work out at the time. And so it would be cool. But yeah, they were recently signed and they've been creating a lot ever since. When they had reached out to me too, which makes sense for them to reach out to a random girl in Sacramento, but they actually only had one song up at the time. And so now they're, working nonstop, I feel like. So it was a really cool experience to work with them in that capacity and at that time too for them. So yeah, I should probably reach out to them, but we're still friends on Instagram, so.
That's good.
Yeah.
And then April 30th, 2021, you released the single Open Your Eyes. October 2021, you released the single Hello Lovely. September 30th, 2022, you released the single Something I'd Never Do. October 12th, 2022, you released the single The Art of Letting Go. October 26th, 2022, you released the single Use Somebody. December 17th, 2022, All I Want for Christmas. February 14th, 2023, Have I Told You Lately? And then March 10th, 2023, you released Vienna. Are all of the songs that you do, aside from the one you worked with Japan and the 5-song, are they all self-produced, or do you work with a studio?
I recently started producing my own songs, starting with Something I'd Never Do. So everything after that has been my own, and when you listen through, you can definitely tell. I'm learning, and it's definitely not something I'm quite comfortable with yet, but it has been a lot of fun. But before that, I was working with studios and, engineers and stuff like that. So yeah, there's definitely a change when you listen to, you can tell when you listen to all the songs.
So then looking back at Something I'd Never Do, how did you feel when you released that one, knowing that that's the one that you produced yourself?
I felt really good. I missed writing a lot of times, like we've talked about, it's cover songs, and sometimes too, producers, while I've loved everything that every, music engineer has added, knowing that this one was completely on my own, I was very, very proud, and I was a little nervous just because I didn't want to feel embarrassed by my skill level, in comparison to the other songs that I've done in the past. But just knowing everything that I had to learn to do that, all the courage I had to muster up to, sit in my closet and record those words, I was very proud of myself for doing it. So it was definitely very scary, but it was a good step for me.
So you performed for this thing called Uprise Sound. You perform Alessia Cara's Scars to Your Beautiful. What is Uprise Sound, and how did you get involved with that?
That is a studio in Sacramento. It's actually the first studio that I started recording with. It actually was owned by my friend, and so I was recording with him for years after that. And yeah, Scars to Your Beautiful was one of the first covers that I had recorded, and so he just wanted to make a video of it, and yeah, it was a good experience. It's a great studio.
And then also on YouTube, I couldn't find a channel for you on YouTube outside of the Rachel Mullen Topics channel.
Yeah.
Is there a reason why you don't have a YouTube channel?
No, I've never really ventured into that side of things. It's always just, 60-second covers on Instagram, and a lot of those I've taken down even. So yeah, I guess that would be something to to look into for the future. I am getting more comfortable with performing songs. I know this sounds silly, but it's so easy to perform covers on Instagram because typically, you'll just do a verse and a chorus, call it a minute, and you're good and post it, But to do a song all the way through, that would be a YouTube video. You wouldn't just do 60 seconds. And so I guess that's kind of why I hadn't ever done it quite yet. I'm starting to feel more comfortable singing and playing for people and things like that. So that would be something maybe I would do. But yeah.
So we'll keep an eye sometime in the future.
Just keep searching for me on YouTube and you'll see.
You were also looking into music and sync licensing. For the people that are listening that don't know what that means, could you give them a little description?
Yeah, basically, from what I have learned about it, it's just basically creating music to sync up with images. So a lot of times you'll see it as like a TV promo, ads even. It could be even like intro to a show. It could even be like bar music, like background music in a scene for a show or something like that. TV, movies, or ads, basically. And from my understanding too, and what I would be interested in doing is remaining an independent artist and then pitching my music to music supervisors. And those music supervisors are the ones that are choosing the music for their projects that they're doing. And so that's kind of my understanding, and that's kind of how it appeals to me, is that I have no interest in becoming famous or anything like that, but it would be really cool to do projects that could make you money and, doing this thing that you love to do. And after a while, like, I can only write so many sad songs. Like, I kind of would like to get into my musical theater dramatic side and write something that would be on a show or maybe in an ad someday or something like that. I think that would be really cool. So, yeah.
So with your songs that you've recorded now, if you had to pick one to put into a scene, which one would you pick? And then what kind of scene would you put it in?
That's a great question. If I'm being honest, none of them. I do have some songs that I'm waiting to work with producers on. That's actually something that I'm learning how to do, is finding sync producers to work with. I've researched about sync licensing. They say a lot of things about different types of songs that music supervisors are typically looking for. And a lot of times it's either something very happy, very joyful for like a TV ad, very spunky and stuff. And I don't know how to produce like that, nor sing or write like that. I find it very cheesy, but that's the types of things you see in ads, so I'm not saying that it's bad. I just personally can't write like that. So they're not, from what I've heard and seen when I've looked for prompts or posts that they've been looking for, it's never typically a sad song. And so that's a lot of what I've just written up until this point. And so to write for sync, I've just been imagining like different styles I want to experiment with and write towards that. But again, I don't know if I would put any of my songs. A lot of people say that their kids fall asleep to my voice, so it might be like on a lullaby or something like that. But
while they're learning how to multiply by 5.
That would definitely not put a kid to sleep.
Thank you for bringing our guest here on the What's in Your Case podcast. Rachel, do you have anything you'd like to promote? Or you could tell the listeners where they can find your content.
I am just on Instagram, maybe YouTube in the future, but Instagram, Rachel Mullen Music. And I do have a song that will be out by the time this podcast comes out. It's Somebody to Love by Queen. So, yeah. The last couple songs I've done have been for each of my family members. Have I Told You Lately was for my mom. Vienna was for my sister, and so this has been my dad's request for a while, so I'm finally getting to it. Yeah.